今日我哋會主要睇約書亞記嘅第9章。
Today we're going to be focusing on chapter 9 of the book of Joshua.
如果你留意今年嘅裏邊世界有好多唔同嘅變化。
Perhaps if you were pay attention to what's happening in the world, there have been many changes.
但係我相信最觸動我哋都喺烏克蘭同埋俄羅斯嘅戰爭。
But perhaps the most striking would be the war between Ukraine and Russia.
唔覺呢場戰爭已經有幾多個月啦？
So if you recall, how many months had it been
幾個月啦？
since the war started? War.
好似應該係大約4個零月咁樣，係2月24號開始。
So perhaps, as you count, it's been about 4 months since February the 24th.
其實呢一場嘅戰爭有好多人估唔到嘅事情出現。
Perhaps, for this particular war, many people had many unexpected things, that had happened.
蘇聯諗住一個好短嘅時間就可以攻陷咗整個嘅烏克蘭。
So Russia, perhaps at the beginning, anticipated that it would be a short war, they would crumble Ukraine.
甚至周圍嘅國家都諗住1個月應該搞掂晒。
And perhaps, even countries nearby, they anticipated, it probably would take just a month, like for the war to end.
但唔覺已經多過4個月啦。
But, as time goes, it's been 4 months already.
但係當我哋回想一場嘅戰爭，唔係淨係2個國家嘅事。
Certainly, when we reflect on the war, definitely it's not just involving 2 countries.
都係直接間接影響咗整個嘅世界，其他嘅國家都被牽連喺裏邊。
As we know, directly or indirectly, many countries, globally, have been affected by this war.
我哋最直接，即係好似係間接，其實係好直接一樣，嗰啲油價好貴。
So perhaps indirectly, but yet, very directly, gas prices have gone up.
可能你會講牧師唔係啊，呢幾日平咗啦。
Perhaps you might say, Pastor, gas prices have come down for the last few days.
會唔會因此好開心呢？如果係真係好陰功，我哋淪落到一個程度100幾，我都要好開心。
Perhaps you're overjoyed, but interestingly, it's over $1 something, for a liter of gas, and you're happy.
連續可以跌咗成20幾仙咁，但係話俾你聽日即係過埋聽日可能再加噶啦。
So just a warning, gas prices will go up again tomorrow.
油價亦都影響好多嘅物價個裏邊嘅通脹。
Certainly, with higher gas prices, it leads to other increases in price, and inflation.
其實喺整場戰爭，邊個係贏家咧？
So as you see, for this war, who seems to be the winner?
我好相信真係打親仗都冇乜邊個係贏家。
So perhaps, for any war, nobody is winning.
弟兄姊妹，當我哋回想我哋嘅人生嘅裏邊，我哋人生都會面對好多唔同嘅挑戰，或者可能嘅戰爭喺我哋裏邊。
Brother and sister, as we reflect on our own lives, perhaps, we might have encountered, different kinds, different types of challenges and perhaps wars.
或者可能我哋拼一生嘅時間，我哋嘅精力你爭我奪，或者我哋去彼此嘅傷害，換嚟嘅可能都係冇乜邊個係贏家。
Perhaps, for some of us, we might spend a lot of energy, in a lot of infighting with other people, challenging one another. And perhaps there's no winner in that case.
但好似好無奈，人就會好樂意喺呢一種嘅情況嘅裏邊去周旋。
But yet, it seems that human beings, we seem to almost enjoy, having all these struggles and be dwelling in it.
呢種嘅情況可能喺我哋嘅成長嘅過程，喺我哋屋企，或者都喺我哋工作嘅環境嘅裏邊，不斷令我哋都係苦惱。
Perhaps, these battles, these wars might have happened, as we are growing up, and even now, within our family, within our workplace, these things are happening just the same.
最近你面對緊乜嘢嘅挑戰呢？
So lately, what kind of challenges, have you been under?
當你面對挑戰，你點樣去面對？
So now that you're faced with these challenges, how are you going to face them and deal with them?
你面對嘅方法係咪一個最好嘅方法呢？
So the way you face, these challenges, are they the most appropriate? Are they the best reactions?
約書亞記嘅第9章講到一個嘅群體叫做基遍。
So in chapter 9 of the book of Joshua, it referenced a tribe, called the Gibeonites.
當約書亞進入應許地，打贏咗耶利哥，又攻陷咗艾城嘅時候，一個勢如破竹嘅情況進入迦南地，當中有一個嘅群體，基遍嘅群體，佢知道呢一種情況，佢嘗試尋找一個逃生嘅一個嘅方法。
So apparently, as you recall, Joshua, he entered into the promised land with the Israelites. There were two battles, the battle of Jericho and battle of Ai, and coming across the Canaanites, so this group of people, the Gibeonites, they were trying to find a way to survive.
嗱，提升主席同我哋讀嘅時候，我哋大約會了解到基遍係扮作係遠方而嚟嘅人，帶住一啲嘅乾發毛嘅餅、破爛嘅衫、爛嘅酒爐嘅酒壺，跟住佢去到嘅時候，就同佢話：我哋喺遠方嚟，請你同我立約，又唔好殺害我哋嚇，我哋情願去做你嘅僕人。
And as you recall from our reading earlier, that the Gibeonites, they set up a ruse, they brought moldy bread and they wore worn-out clothes and brought their wineskin, bag for wine. And so they came to the Israelites and begged them not to hurt them, not to kill them.
其實基遍人係喺我哋嘅信仰裏邊掀起我哋一啲嘅疑惑嘅。
So certainly the Gibeonites, really raise the way we think about, as Christians. And lying. So they are liars.
我講大話謀生啦，啱唔啱？
So, right, they kind of make up lies.
或者希望可能今日嘅講道裏邊俾你有另一個嘅睇法。
So perhaps today's sermon would give you a very different perspective.
或者喺今日嘅講道嘅裏邊，亦都解決咗我哋對睇約書亞記以色列人攻取迦南地要殺戮嘅一個嘅唔明嘅原因。
So perhaps today's sermon, would uncover, a reason. Sometimes we're not quite understand, why the Israelites enter into Canaanites and started like a massacre of those natives there.
點解咁慈愛嘅神要咁殘忍去殺晒所有嘅人？
Why a loving God, would go about and killing all these people in the land.
弟兄姊妹，人生嘅裏邊都係嘗試去揾一條好嘅路。
Certainly, for most of us, we would find, a nice path in for our lives.
今日我哋嚟到上帝面前，我哋問一問：你今日行緊條路係咪一條最好嘅路？
So perhaps as we come before the Lord this morning, to ask of ourselves, the pathway that I'm leading, I'm choosing, is it the most appropriate one, the best one?
今日讓我哋能夠從基遍人嘅身上，我哋能夠有一啲嘅反省，乜嘢係我哋人生一個最好嘅路？
So perhaps today let's learn from the Gibeonites and perhaps reflect upon, what is, our life path. Is it appropriate? Is it the best?
當我哋睇約書亞記第9章一開始嘅時候，講到約旦河西住山地高原，並對着黎巴嫩山原大海一帶嘅諸王，就是赫人、亞摩利人、迦南人、比利洗人、希未人、耶布斯人嘅諸王，聽見這事，就都聚集，同心合意的，要與約書亞和以色列人爭戰。
Perhaps as you see from the beginning of chapter 9, as you see, all the kings west of the Jordan heard about these things, those in the hill country, in the western foothills, and along the entire coast of the Great Sea as far as Lebanon, so including all the kings of Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivitites, and Jebusites, so they came together to make war against Joshua and Israel.
你會留意呢，喺約書亞第9章戰爭係有兩個唔同嘅回應嘅方法。
So perhaps as you look at, chapter 9, that when a war comes away, there are perhaps two types of reactions to it.
呢度講到迦南裏邊一個聯合嘅一個嘅聯盟，佢哋用一個回應戰爭嘅方法就係聯手更大嘅兵力去對付。
So here, as you see in chapter 9, the kings, of the western foothills, they came into an alliance to face, this upcoming war with Israel.
可能大家都係甚至聖經形容到佢哋同心合意嘅與約書亞同埋以色列人爭戰。
So as you read that, they came together to make war against Joshua and Israel.
但係可能過去大家都係你鬥我，我鬥你，但係因為有共同嘅敵人，一齊嘅槍頭去對付呢個敵人。
Perhaps, they might have fought against one another in the past, but this day, facing Joshua and Israel, that they decided to come together to have stronger army, stronger force to fight him.
甚至當基遍同以色列人結聯盟嘅時候，喺第10章嘅裏邊，佢哋一齊聯手，第一個就要打基遍。
So apparently, as Gibeonites gather with Joshua later on, and these kings of the western foothills, they also come together and try to attack Gibeon.
喺第10章嘅裏邊，佢哋嗰個聯盟神係祝福以色列人同埋基遍人，以致佢哋大敗喺以色列人面前。
So in verses 10 and 11, apparently God blessed the Israelites and the Gibeonites. Therefore, they eventually won the war against the other western kings of the foothills.
甚至神約書亞向神祈禱，個敵人要佢追趕嘅時候，請你停咗嘅日頭。神係聽約書亞嘅禱告，日頭停下，讓佢哋繼續去攻打。喺佢哋當中顯出一個嘅神蹟。
So apparently, as the Gibeonites and Israelites gather up together, Joshua prayed to God, and even to the point that the sun, stands still over Gibeon to allow, these joint forces to fight against the other kings.
喺佢哋嘅腦裏邊，戰爭好似係唯一一個嘅渠道。
So in their mind, war seems to be, the only way out for them.
但我哋值得問，戰爭係咪唯一嘅渠道呢？究竟？
But perhaps for us to reflect upon, would war be the only option people have?
究竟呢個戰爭係咪神嘅心意？
Perhaps, we think about, is this, war, upon God's will?
對比迦南嘅聯盟，佢哋面對戰爭嘅方法，我哋去睇一睇基遍人。
So comparing to the Canaanites, how they allied up, like, to fight Joshua. But perhaps let's pay attention to take a look at the Gibeonites and
我
their
哋
way
試
of
下一
facing
齊
the
讀
war.
一讀第3至第6節。
So let's read from verses 3 to 6 in chapter 9.
基遍嘅居民聽見約書亞向耶利哥和艾城所行的事，就設詭計，假充使者拿舊口袋，如果可以一齊讀啊 ，OK， 和破裂嘅縫補嘅舊皮酒袋伏在路上，將補過嘅鞋穿在腳上，把舊嘅衣服穿在身上。他們所帶的餅都是乾的，長了毛的。他們到了吉甲營中，見約書亞對他和以色列人說：我們是從遠方來的，現在求你與我們立約。我哋見到一班基遍嘅人，佢哋面對將會嘅戰爭，佢哋採取有一個嘅方法。
So as we read just now and look at the Gibeonites, that the way they faced the war, was quite different.
佢哋係假裝遠方而嚟嘅人，以致希望以色列人能夠同佢哋立約，免去一場嘅戰爭。
So they pretended that they came from a far and distant country. So they came up, like, to Joshua and wanted to make a treaty with him to avoid the war.
我唔知你覺得呢個係咪一個好嘅方法咧？
Not so sure, what you think, would
我
this
哋唔好
be
俾
a nice way?
有一個嘅立場喺度，我哋試下睇一睇究竟呢一個嘅發生一件咩事。
So let's take a look at, what happened here.
聖經嘅裏邊，中文聖經、英文聖經裏邊都譯作詭計。
So in the English and the Chinese translation of this part of the Bible, it says there is a ruse.
呢一個嘅時候都俾咗一個肯定嘅情況，但係你留意呢一個字嘅時候係一個好中性嘅情況。
So certainly, a ruse, could be a very neutral kind of approach.
從有一個嘅正面嘅角度裏邊去睇呢一個嘅呢個字裏邊係帶出一種謹慎嘅意思。
So ruse from a positive angle, it means taking caution.
但係從一個反面嘅時候咧，又係一個陰謀嘅意思。
So if you look at it negatively, it would mean it's a conspiracy.
其實你話牧師你講緊乜嘢？
So perhaps you might ask, well, what are you saying, Pastor?
你企唔同嘅位去睇啫嘛。
So depending how, where you stand when you look at,
從別人嘅角度裏邊去睇，呢一個係個陰謀，你好奸啊！
So perhaps from the others, they might accuse you of being so cunning, it is a conspiracy.
你有冇試過從基遍人嘅角度去睇？
So have you tried to look at it from the
呢個
Gibeonites?
叫做乜嘢啊？叫做智慧。
So perhaps you can say from the Gibeonites, they're
但
just
我唔知啊，話即
self-defense.
係話你鼓勵你講大話，但係你明白從嗰個角度嘅裏邊，其實呢一度嘅時候都睇兩個情況。一陣我哋再睇，你會明白多啲。
So perhaps, this is not about being a liar, but if you look at it, from their end, perhaps you'll get some insights.
記得耶穌曾經講過一句咁嘅説話。
So, do you still remember, what Jesus at one point in time has
耶
said?
穌鼓勵你去做。
So perhaps, for Jesus to almost encourage you to do.
耶穌同門徒講：你哋去到人群嘅當中，好似羊進入狼群，所以你們要咩啊？靈巧像蛇，馴良像鴿子。
So even Jesus, told his disciples as they enter into the crowd that, they have to be as wise, as they're meek, as rabbits and hare, but as and to be smooth, as
聖經
snakes.
唔係叫你奸，
Certainly, it's never the Bible's intentions
聖
to
經唔
ask
係
you
叫
to
你
be cunning
惡。
or to be
但有時
aggressive.
我哋要識轉去靈
But
巧，
sometimes,
用一種智慧。
we gotta have wisdom and to be able
但
to
係喺
turn
用
our minds.
用呢種智慧嘅過程裏邊，請你竭力保守你嘅純良嘅心個動機。
And while you're doing this, you have to use all your might to protect, a gentle kind of simple heart.
如果唔係，我哋就變咗迦南嘅聯盟，死咗好耐啦。
Otherwise, we would have become these tribes, from the Canaan alliance.
弟兄姊妹。
Brothers and sisters,
人生我哋不斷掙扎，為嘅係乜嘢？
So perhaps you might contemplate why do we, struggle with so many things in life?
為乜嘢？人最基本係為生存。
And perhaps, we just trying to survive.
你人生目的唔會為去死嘅，係咪？
Perhaps you're not going to plan, to die for somebody else.
你會留意咧，好叻打仗嘅拿破崙，當佢戰敗嘅時候，有一個好大嘅感慨。
So perhaps you remember, the great commander Napoleon, after he failed a war, he, had such a great reflection.
當佢戰敗被放逐嘅時候，叫個僕人攞啲嘢俾佢，個僕人唔聽佢。
So, Napoleon was on exile, and there was one time he asked a servant to bring something to him, and the servant refused.
佢一個慨嘆，我東征北伐咁犀利嘅時候，換嚟嘅係咁樣嘅收場。但係對比耶穌基督，佢不費一兵一卒，佢用愛去感化整個世界。呢個係咩啊？智慧。
Very different from Napoleon, even though he commanded such a huge territory, but at the end, nobody, will listen to him. But as compared to Jesus himself, that, he never used a soldier or a weapon, but using love, like Jesus commanded the world.
其實喺我哋人生裏邊不斷為求生，為我哋嘅生存，但係好容易嘅時候，我哋會覺得人在江湖，我唔敢做唔得。其實係咪呢個對立鬥爭係唯一一個嘅出路呢？
So perhaps, if we look at, we are all here for survival. Sometimes we might say that, I cannot change much because, I have to go with the world. But would battle, would war,
其實戰爭對立冇一個嘅贏家。
So perhaps in a war, there is no winner for the opponents.
讓我哋面對我哋嘅掙扎嘅裏邊，我哋懇求主俾我哋一種嘅智慧，點樣去面對，而面對係合神嘅心意。
So certainly in a time of war and conflicts, perhaps we need to pray to the Lord. How should I respond? How should I avoid, all this, aggression?
耶穌提醒我哋一句好寶貴嘅說話，佢話：人若賺得全世界，若賠上自己嘅生命，有什麼益處呢？
And Jesus reminds ourselves, what good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world yet forfeits his soul?
當我哋為求生嘅時候，我哋賠上咗好多嘅關係，好多我哋自己嘅性格嘅嗰種嘅美麗，或者好多見證嘅機會，有乜嘢益處？
So perhaps, just fighting for survival, we might have given up a lot of our relationship, even the beauty of a character.
人提醒我哋一樣，當我哋面對同一個嘅戰爭，我哋係咪一個武力係唯一一個解決方法，定係我哋需要嚟到主嘅面前求智慧？
So looking at the Gibeonites, if we fall into the same situation, do we use aggression like to resolve it, or we come before the Lord to ask for, the best options to respond?
係啊，有時我哋真係唔知道點處嘅。
Sure, sometimes we don't know, how we
我
should
哋真
respond.
係冇嗰種嘅智慧去諗到一個方案去出嚟。
Certainly, we don't have the kind of wisdom that we need, to think of an options and to think of a way out.
但雅各鼓勵我哋，你們中間若缺少智慧嘅，應當求那厚賜予眾人，也不斥責人的神，主就必 賜給他。
In the book of James, it says, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him.
當我哋面對求生，我哋讓我哋能夠學習去到主嘅面前求取真正嘅智慧，一個合神心意嘅智慧。
Certainly, as we face with life's challenges, perhaps we need to come before the Lord to ask for the real and the true wisdom from God.
咁我哋繼續去睇呢段經文嘅時候，我哋嚟到第11節。
So let's look at verse 11, of chapter 9.
聖經裏面話，我哋嘅長老和我們嘅那地嘅一切居民對我說：你們手裏要帶着路上用嘅食物去迎接以色列人，對他們說：我們是你嘅僕人，現在求你們與我們立約。
So here in verse 11, the elders and all those living, in the country said to us, take provisions for your journey, go and meet the Israelites and say to them, we are your servants, make a treaty with us.
呢個立約其實有一種講和嘅意味。
So here, they're making a treaty, it's almost like they're asking for peace.
呢個所以嘅 NIV 譯到嘅 treaty of peace with them，佢係一種求和平嘅情況。
Certainly their intention is to ask for a treaty of peace, to discuss and find a peaceful way out.
老實講，你估約書亞好想打㗎？
So in other words, we don't think Joshua, would warn a war.
戰爭會死人㗎嘛？
Certainly, with war,
有
people
乜嘢
are going
損
to
傷，
die.
有乜嘢出錯？你話神會保守佢，但點知以色列人會唔會又有一個唔生性，又好似收埋啲嘢阿干咁樣啊，收埋啲嘢影響晒大家。
So Joshua was not sure, because there might people like someone like Achan, who kept some of the looted goods and would affect the whole tribe of Israel.
約書基遍人願意嚟到以色列人面前求個和平，甚至願意作佢哋嘅僕人。
So the Gibeonites came before the Israelites and asking for a treaty of peace, even to the point of becoming the servants, of Israel.
特別你留意咧，首領對會眾說要容他們活着，於是他們為全會眾作劈柴挑水嘅人。
So here in the scripture, it says, let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers for the entire community.
你會留意呢一個，冇錯，我哋生存，我哋做以色列人嘅僕人，算啦，僕人嘅僕人啦。
So the Gibeonites, they survived and they became the servants of Israel.
但如果你留意第23節嘅，現在你們是被咒詛，呢個情況係一種咒詛嘅情況。
So apparently in verse 23, it says you are now under a curse.
原來基遍人對我哋一個嘅提醒嘅人，我哋喺求生嘅過程裏邊冇錯，我哋可以生存，但換嚟嘅係一種嘅咒詛。
So apparently learning from the Gibeonites, they were trying to survive, but somehow, it led to a curse upon them.
呢種係人嘅智慧咯。
So this is the kind of human wisdom. So there's consequence.
有時可能我哋諗住自己好聰明，但可能攞一個石頭冚另一個石頭，但第二個石頭仲大，我冚翻自己隻腳。
Sometimes we humans, we thought we were being wise. We bring a bigger boulder, on top of another, but somehow the boulder may fall onto our feet and hurt our feet.
所以聖經好有智慧去話，人有一條路，人以為係正，但至終成為死亡之路。
So clearly in the Bible, in Proverbs, it says there is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end it leads to death.
我相信人去求生唔會希望求一個被咒詛嘅出路。
Certainly nobody, I would think, who asks for survival would want to choose, an outcome of being cursed.
今日我哋去為咗求生換嚟嘅，會唔會係一個祝福，定係一個嘅咒詛？
So as for us today, as we ask for survival, would we want to trade survival, with a life of death or otherwise?
會唔會我哋以為一個最好解決嘅方法，但可能換嚟另一個嘅麻煩出現？
Perhaps, we might think, this could be the best options for us, but in turn, in reality, it might bring on another problems for us.
我哋嘗試從以色列人嘅角度去睇，究竟喺呢件事，以色列人有咩功課值得去學習？
Certainly, let's take a look from the perspective of the Israelites. What kind of lessons, have they learned from this experience?
好直接講到以色列人喺呢件事上邊沒有求問耶和華。
Here, in the scripture, clearly, the Israelites, the men of Israel, they, did not inquire of the Lord.
點解咧？
One would ask why.
可能咧，第一場仗被打就好驚，找住神；第二場仗，哎呀衰咗之後知道找住神，跟住第三場仗可能哎呀唔使打啦，好咯，我唔使求問。
So perhaps as you look at the Israelites, the first battle, they were so scared, so they prayed to the Lord. The second battle, was quite a bit of a
冇刻
surprise.
意去
They
解釋呢一個原因，但係講咗一個嘅後果。
But certainly, in the Bible, they didn't explain why, but, it certainly mentioned of the outcome.
換嚟嘅全會眾向首領發怨言，又用翻佢哋嘅康家本領。
What happened was the Israelites, the entire assembly, they grumbled against the leaders.
跟住嘅時候，呢一個嘅20節裏邊話：你們要如此待他們，用他們活着，免得有憤怒因我們所起嘅誓臨到我哋。如果唔守，又會面對另一個嘅憤怒。
So in response, what was said, to the assembly of Israelites, so that wrath will not fall on us for breaking the oath we swore to them.
以色列人喺當中冇去求問神，換嚟嘅好似哎呀唔使打仗啦，好似一個和好嘅情況，但係換嚟嘅喺裏邊突然之間無端端又掀起咗一種嘅紛爭嘅出現。
So for the Israelites, even though, they avoided war by making a treaty of peace with the Gibeonites, but somehow for not asking the Lord, they create some sort of inner conflicts among themselves.
其實你喺呢度，你會問一個問題：點解以色列人咁緊張，殺唔殺死佢哋啫？
So why was the Israelites so concerned about killing off the Gibeonites or letting them live?
可能以色列人好驚一樣嘅嘢，會唔會我哋如果唔對付嘅欺騙人，我哋變咗又好似亞干咁樣情況，我哋就變咗有禍患啦。
So perhaps the Israelites were thinking, if we were to let the Gibeonites live, would it be kind of like, breaking the law with God, like something like what had happened to Achan earlier?
姊妹，我哋要諗一樣嘅問題就係點解神要以色列人去滅絕嗰個嘅迦南地嘅人，係咪神唔夠慈愛？
So certainly one would think, why did God wanted the Israelites to kill every single person, in the land of
係咪神好
Canaan?
中意殺人咧？
So was it God, is brutal,
咁諗就可能神教埋你去殺人。
So it seems like, God even like teaching the Israelites to kill off people.
我哋要問點解以色列人去滅絕，係其實某個程度嘅時候，以色列人係代表神去做一個嘅審判嘅工作。
So apparently here, why God wanted the Israelites to kill off all these people, because God entrusted the Israelites, to do the job of like
佢哋
judging.
犯罪，佢哋抗拒，明嘛？佢哋叛逆神嘅時候，佢面臨個咒詛，但係你唔好唔記得喺約書亞一開始嘅時候，未打仗之前嘅時候，神去拯救人㗎。
So certainly, perhaps if we were to look back at the beginning, God truly want to save people, but now these people have refused God's way, and therefore the curse, came
點
upon them.
解叫個個唔揾要揾約書亞？約書亞咁樣叫拯救啊嘛。
So why Joshua? Because Joshua's name means, to save.
記唔記得嘅裏邊我哋曾經睇過有一個人叫做拉合啊？
So do you remember, in the Bible, there's this person like Leah?
探子去嘅時候啊，佢收藏嘅探子同個探子裏邊立個和約，嗱我保護你，你要救我全家。
So remember, when the Israelites before they enter into the promised land, that they went to this guy's house, and then they make a treaty, with the woman, and that when the Lord came, the Lord will protect my whole family.
一個迦南嘅妓女，竟然喺以色列人當中成為佢哋民族嘅一個景仰嘅人啊！
So certainly, for Leah, like, a Canaan prostitute, but she became, someone that was truly honored.
弟兄姊妹，當我哋留意，其實神好樂意去救贖一切嘅人，以致得到真正嘅永生。當耶穌面對十字架，最後同門徒交付嘅就係呢一個嘅信息。
So certainly God truly wants to save and love everybody, to offer everlasting life to everybody. And even if you recall, when Jesus was on the cross, this was exactly the message Jesus gave, to his disciples.
其實喺當中，我哋會了解到神好樂意賜予人生命。 但係唔係賜一個短暫，而賜一個永恆；唔係賜一個有生命而係被咒詛，而係有生命係一個蒙恩嘅生命。
So what God, would give, it's not a life, with curse, but what God, wanted us to have, is an everlasting life, and a much blessed life, for each one of us.
耶穌喺約翰福音第10章嘅裏邊咁樣記載，佢話：我就是門，凡從我進來的必然得救，並且出入得草吃。盜賊來，無非是要偷竊、殺害、毀壞。我來了，是要叫羊或人去得生命，並且得的更豐盛。
In John the Gospel, Jesus said, I'm the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. He will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the full.
基遍人帶俾我哋一個反省，今神要我哋得生命，係一個短暫，繼續延長我哋地上嘅生命，定係我哋嘅喺地上嘅生命係活得係豐盛，係滿有意義、滿有價值。
So today's message, of the Gibeonites, that do we want a short-term life, on earth, or, we want an everlasting life and a life, that will, help us to live to the fullest.
最後我哋睇一睇最後一個嘅對比。
And let's take a look at the last kind of comparison here.
讓我哋一齊讀第24、25節好嗎？
So let's read together verses 24 and 25.
他們回答約書亞說：因為有人實在告訴你嘅僕人，耶和華你嘅神曾吩咐他嘅僕人摩西把這全地賜給你們，並在你們面前滅絕這地一切嘅居民。所以我們為你們嘅緣故甚怕喪命，就行了這事。現在我們在你手中，你以什麼待我們，為善為正，就怎樣作吧。以色列人。
The Israelites,
去求神，
they try to fetch for survival.
去講出好真誠講出佢哋嘅原因。
So, the Gibeonites share, their true and their real reasons why, they would behave like that.
佢好相信呢位嘅神，好相信依靠神嘅群體係一個乜嘢嘅群體？係愛公正、 嘅群體。
They trusted that whoever relied on the Lord would be a community, of righteousness.
所以以色列人所以基遍人去同約書亞咁講，你覺
So
得
the Gibeonites, therefore, spoke to Joshua.
你覺得乜嘢係善，乜嘢係正嘅，你就咁樣對我哋咧？
So the Gibeonites said to Joshua, "We are now in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you."
佢相信嘅咩？佢相信公義，
So what they trust, would be good and right.
佢相信呢位嘅神係一位公義嘅神。
So they trust, that this God of
佢
the
相信呢位
Israel,
嘅神滅絕係因為審判刑罰，當人願意行公義嘅時候，呢位神好樂意。
so the Gibeonites, understood why, God needed to wipe out, because of judgment. So they trust, that this God, is a God of
知
justice.
道嗰班人嘅心，又好知道神嘅心。
So certainly, they truly, was aware of God's will and, what these people were thinking.
所以喺26節裏邊咁記載，於是約書亞這樣待他們，救他們說脫離以色列人嘅手。
So in verse 26, Joshua saved them from the Israelites and they did not kill them.
因為聖經話，凡求告主名就必得救。
Certainly in the Bible, it promised, and says everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved.
無論係猶太人、希利尼人冇分別，神好樂意去拯救每一個願意倚靠佢嘅人。
And the Bible promised that there was no difference between Jew and Gentile. The same Lord is Lord of all and richly bless all who call on him.
咁可能你話牧師冇錯，佢哋有生命，但係走錯咗喎。
So perhaps, you might say, Pastor, yeah, they have life, but they were cursed.
冇錯，可能
It's true.
我哋嘅智慧換取咗一個咒詛嘅生命，但請你留意喺歷史裏邊嘅基遍人。
So certainly, yes, because of survival, they made a ruse and they therefore had to live with the curse. But, if we look back into history and look at the Bible, what happened to the Gibeonites?
請你記住，之前首領係要基遍人作佢哋會眾劈柴擔水嘅人。
So remember, the Gibeonites, they were safe, but they became servants of the Israelites. They were woodcutters and water carriers.
約書亞點樣做一個結局？
So how Joshua, conclude, with them?
留意27節，當日約書亞使他們在耶和華所要選擇嘅地方，為會眾和耶和華嘅壇作劈柴挑水的人。
So in verse 27, this is what happened. That day, Joshua made the Gibeonites woodcutters and water carriers for the community and for the altar of the Lord at the place the Lord would choose.
你咪話會又係劈柴挑水？
Perhaps you might tease and say, well, they remain woodcutters and water carriers.
劈柴挑水嘅對象唔同咗㗎啦，升呢咗啦。
But certainly, they're no longer, just the ordinary.
如果你份工程係發展又要死捱，咁你咪又劈柴挑水咯。如果你知道你侍奉緊神，你個又升呢咗啦。
So, that the Gibeonites, they were no longer ordinary woodcutters and water carriers because now they're serving the Lord in his
呢
altar.
個就唔係咒詛，呢個係一個侍奉主嘅福氣嚟嘅。
So certainly this is no longer a curse, but a blessing,
你點
being
睇
able
啊
to serve the
我劈
Lord.
柴挑水係咒詛，我有機會透過劈柴挑水侍奉主，亦都係一種福氣嚟嘅。
So certainly, it doesn't matter what the job is, but being able to serve the Lord, and even as woodcutters or water carriers,
歷史
it's a
裏
blessing.
邊讓基遍人咧做劈柴挑水，做咗好專業㗎啦。
So certainly, historically, for the Gibeonites to become woodcutters and
之
water
下裏
carriers.
邊咁第1章第3節裏邊講到咧，所羅門和會眾咧都往基遍嘅丘壇去，因那裏有神嘅會幕，就是耶和華僕人摩西曠野所做嘅。
In 2 Chronicles chapter 1, and Solomon and the whole assembly went to the high place at Gibeon, for God's tent of meeting was there, which Moses, the Lord's servant, had made in the desert.
會幕嚟到去侍奉神。
So to be able to serve the Lord at God's tent.
當以尼希米重建聖場嗰個城牆嘅時候，
So
第
when
3章第7節咁樣記載，其次是基遍人米拉提、米倫人亞頓與基遍人，並屬河西總督所管理嘅米希巴人修造。
So apparently when the prophet Nehemiah, to rebuild, the temple of God, next to them, repairs were made by men from Gibeon
建
and
造城牆好多木材㗎，
and certainly rebuilding like the
邊個
war.
係專業劈木材？基遍人，佢哋就用自己嘅才幹去重建嗰個嘅城牆。
So using, their talents as woodcutters to rebuild the war, of this city.
詩篇第84篇裏邊有一句好美咁嘅形容。
Certainly, in Psalm, 4, such a beautiful way of like describing.
啲人話，在你嘅院宇住一日，勝似在別處住千日，寧可在我神殿中看門，不願住在惡人嘅帳棚裏，因為耶和華是日頭，是盾牌，要賜下恩惠和榮耀，他未常留下一樣好處，不給那些行動正直的人。萬軍之耶和華，倚靠你的人便為有福。
What a beautiful way in Psalm chapter 4. Better is one day in the Lord's court than 1,000 elsewhere. I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than dwell in the tents of the wicked. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord bestows favor and honor. No good things does he withhold from those whose walk is blameless. O Lord Almighty, blessed is the man who trusts in you.
點解喺殿中看門都係咁好啊？呢個都係福氣嚟㗎。
Certainly, even as a doorkeeper in the house of God,
因為個
indeed,
對
it
象
is a
唔
blessing.
同，
For, what you're serving, is different now.
佢用心可能做緊同類似嘅嘢，但係個心向住主，呢個就唔係變咗咒詛，係變咗一個祝福。
So certainly, once your heart turned to serve the Lord, it doesn't matter what you do. No longer a curse for your life, but indeed a true blessing.
基遍人提醒我哋每一個人都會面對我哋嘅戰爭或者我哋嘅挑戰，我哋應該用乜嘢嘅方法去回應我哋嘅挑戰？
So certainly, this lesson with the Gibeonites reminded us, as we face survival, how are we going to respond with the wars in our lives?
我哋係為咗換取短暫嘅求生或者短暫嘅生存嘅空間，定係我哋希望能夠得到更長遠嘅祝福，一個豐盛嘅生命？
Do we just wish for a short-term lifespan or just for survival? Or, are we looking at an everlasting, long-lasting, blessed life?
人嘅方法可能換嚟，可能一條死路或者一個咒詛佢哋，但係神可以將我哋嘅錯嘅路改變，變為一個祝福嘅路。
Certainly, using humans' ways, perhaps, our choice may lead us to death or a curse.
我
But
哋每
for
一日都
God,
喺度不斷求生，我哋今日係咪用緊神嘅智慧去求一個智慧嘅人生？
But certainly, we fight for survival every day, but are we using God's way, to keep us alive?
我哋忙忙役役買餸煮飯，買餸煮飯，我哋有為咗生存，但係我哋嘅人生係咪豐盛嘅人生？
So perhaps day in and day out, we get busy, to fight for our own survival. But have we lived our life to the fullest for the Lord?
人生好似有好多嘅咒詛，但係當我哋轉換咗我哋嘅對象，盡心竭力去侍奉，呢個咒詛變為一個祝福。
Perhaps, we might have faced with many curses in our life, but, as we shift our focus and then we worked hard, to serve the Lord, that in our life, shall turn into a blessing.
弟兄姊妹，今日你行緊一條乜嘢嘅路？
So brother and sister, what kind of life journey, are you heading or are you in?
你係行緊一條蒙恩嘅路啊，定係一個咒詛嘅路？
Are you walking on the pathway of blessing or a pathway of curse?
求主幫助我哋。